Yellow just walking in the house in my road, gotta make her put it on. She don't like wearing clothes, just left Concord, North Carolina. I was licking on booty and a whole lot of vagina. Eat a boozer with some ice cream, she'll remember you. Ice Cube make it chip, shiver like the winter do.
See me with the crew, I had to get some food. I see you looking like you do. Had to make a move, make a move.
Started. Please don't get me started. Started. Please don't get me started.
What up, y'all? State Almighty, aka the Global Dark Skin Ambassador. I got a video request in regards to the politics that I know of between Bloods and Crips compared to the town, the free world, and jail. Okay, so this video is going to offend a few gang members. It's going to offend a few gang members because I'm calling out the nonsense, all right? Because I feel like it's ridiculous, and we as men, especially black men, we got to do better, okay? And I got my notes with me. And the objective of this video is, why do Bloods hunt Crips in jail but ignore them in the free world in New York City for the most part? And if I could rephrase that, I would say, growing up in a dominantly Blood area of New York City, right? I almost never heard Bloods speaking about having wars with Crips in the town, in the free world, right? But when you go to jail, the amount of oppression, the amount of hatred towards Crips, and the amount of hatred with Crips towards Bloods, right? In Rikers Island when I was there was disgusting. Even though, you know, you had your Bloods who got along with Crips on the inside, but it always like looked funny to people from the outside, and the big homies, the older dudes would then order younger Bloods to attack Crips just because they there. And you know, it just perpetuated a whole lot of violence and ridiculousness. You feel me? So I'ma just go through my points and I'ma let y'all know my opinion on the situation. You feel me? Because I feel like it's ridiculous. I feel like it's ridiculous. The Bloods are doing too much, right? And sometimes the Crips is doing too much, but in all due reality, we know that LA and New York is the opposite in regards to Bloods and Crips. The Crips are heavier in LA, the Bloods are heavier in New York City, right? But I'm gonna explain the differences, right? And what I've seen and heard about in LA, and what I've seen and heard about in New York City, all right? So without further ado, let's get to it. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell, man. But look, in the town, Bloods and Crips for the most part stay out of each other's business. For real, okay? I grew up with Bloods, all right? I grew up around Sex, Money, Murder. I grew up around Non-Trade. I grew up around Mac Ballers especially, right? My age group, Mac Baller had the heaviest influence at a certain point in time over everyone my age who was Blood, right? And honestly, just speaking from my hood, right? My hood being that we nowhere near Crips, right? In a large abundance. There was never a time where the Bloods that I grew up with were congregating and talking about how they about to ride on the Lokes. They about to go shoot at the Crips. They about to go kill some Crips, right? This never happened. Not even one time. This never happened. So when I got to Rikers Island, and I seen how much they hated each other and how much they attacked each other, it really didn't make no sense. And when you think about it, it's really just dudes being like LA, when the politics in LA is not the same. You know what I'm saying? Like now, The blood and the Crip stuff in New York City is very, very real, and they get very, very dangerous. But the politics is not the same as LA, where they got this mortal hatred of each other that started in the 60s and 70s, right? The blood and Crip stuff came to New York City in the early 90s. It ain't enough bloodshed. It ain't enough generational bloodshed between Bloods and Crips in New York City like it been in LA, to where it's harder to quell the damages that has been done in New York City like it is in LA. You know, you got dudes in LA, they Crip, you know, their grandfather might have got killed by Blood in Watts or something, or in Compton or something. Like that's how it is, but it's not like that in the city. You know what I'm saying? My next point. In the streets of New York City, not all the time, none of these things are generalized in 100%. 100%. But what I'm saying is, from what I know of, what I grew around in, I'm speaking for the area where I grew up in, right? Compared to the free world in Rikers Island when I was there, in the streets, Bloods cohabitate with Crips. Bloods cohabitate with Crips, all right? They do, you know what I'm saying? Like my area where I live, Cortland, Morris Ave, where I lived, Cortland, Morris Avenue, Park Avenue. Niggas would be lying if they say they didn't know a Crip who was official and they had no problems with it, right? There's a significant amount of Crips who grew up, sometimes is relatives of well-known Bloods, and the Crips is just as well known, right? And they got along. There was never any beef. They grew up together from the sandbox. Only difference was the gang affiliation. They walking through the hood, beads on, blue and white beads on, nobody touching them. One, because they're gangster. Right? And two is because it ain't about the Crip, the Crip versus Blood war and beef warpath. It ain't as deep as LA. So when I see my brothers, dudes who look like me on both sides, and they trying to slash each other, they jumping each other, you know what I'm saying? Now Bloods who didn't have no beef with Crips out in the town of New York City, now they going to jail, and they hate Crips guts and all of that, and they going out their way to do harm to people who look just like them. Pure stupidity to me, and unnecessary. It's unnecessary, man. My next point. Crips walk through Bloods hoods freely. Of course, not all the time, but we all know this happens, right? You could be Blood and your favorite cousin is a Crip, right? Like, for example, my cousin. I got an older cousin. He about 40 right now. He doing some time. He Blood, right? Been Blood, right? Been Blood. His oldest son is Blood as well. His second oldest son is Crip. Out of spite. Never gonna be any issues. You know what I'm saying? It just ain't the same as LA. So it's like, when these things are happening, what's really the point in beefing so much with the Bloods and Crips in the jail system? And as a neutral dude looking from the outside in, as a brother to all, you know what I'm saying? As somebody who loves both sides, it's ridiculous. Next point. In the streets, your hood matters more than being Blood or Crip. Like I said, the area where I come from, it ain't a whole lot of Crips, but it's enough to where it's noticeable, right? In the streets, the hood matters more than being a Blood or Crip. So it's like, Crips from my side of town and Bloods from my side of town. It already probably never was no beef. And if it's like a gathering or something, a cookout or something in the hood, the couple Crips from the hood is gonna be amongst the Bloods. And already it's some type of hood gang, right? That dudes love more than being Blood or Crip, that unites everybody anyway. And when it's smoke, it's static, the Bloods and the Crips is riding together against the enemies from the other hood who we might have static with, right? Next point. I never in my life heard of a big gang war in the streets between Bloods and Crips. This is self-hate and white supremacy in full effect. How much longer will we hurt and kill our own people just for recreation over no money or no honorable reason? Meaning you're not attacking this person because they did something to you out in the town most of the time, not all the time. You know, we all know there's exceptions to that. I've spoken about that. But this person has not harmed your children. This person has not stolen from you initially. This person has not done anything disrespectful to the women in your family, especially your mother or the mother of your children, right? Right? How long will genocide and willful ignorance be celebrated between the Bloods and the Crips? Mainly the Bloods because y'all have higher numbers, right? Both sides have snitches. Both sides have lost lives. Both sides have been infiltrated by the feds. Both sides have sisters, brothers, mothers, and children. Both sides have to figure it out. Like, share, comment, subscribe. This is some real stuff. If you are a Blood or a Crip and you watch this video and you feel some type of way, you're part of the problem, and fuck you. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.